JavaScript function definitions. A function definition is a general term for defining a function. Examples of function definitions include function declarations, function expressions, and arrow functions. Function declaration is one specific way to define a function, and let's go ahead to see how it can be done in JavaScript. So practically, let's look at some of the function definitions that we have in JavaScript and the method through which we can define functions. So looking at my boilerplate code, you can see I've added some comment on different methods or ways by which we can define functions in JavaScript. And let's start going over them one after the other. So the first one is function declaration. So when you want to define a function in this way, that simply implies that you declare the function, just as the name implies, function declaration. So you're going to need the function keyword, and you're also going to need the function name in order to do this. So an example would be make a function and call the name my function. And then inside it, something like return. So what do you want to return? Of course, a function like this will not return anything, but if you have a parameter of maybe x and y, you can easily say return x asterisk y, or you can say return x plus y, whatever it is. This is a function declaration. So this way you have a function in JavaScript using the function keyword and a name for your function. Another one is function expression. Now, with function expression, you can easily assign a function to a name and make it to return whatever you want it to return. So an example of a function expression, just as the name implies, an expression usually have two sides, the left and right hand side. So let's say we have the left hand side, a name like this, my function, and then on the right hand side I have a function, and then maybe the function is name that takes a parameter of x and y. Then I can make it to return x asterisk y like this. So there's an error here because this place is comma not full stop. Yeah. Now you can see that the way a function express is used is different from the way function declaration is used in the first example. So this is an expression. When you see something like this is called a function expression, and this is called a function declaration. You can see that here everything we have here is preceded by the function keyword, but here there's a little bit of twist around on how the function is being declared. Then another one is function expression, or something you can call anonymous function. So let's see what this looks like. So this usually doesn't always carry name, since it is always referred to as an anonymous function. So you see the function keyword, but it will not carry name. So it's also a form of an expression. So my function equals to function x and y. Return x asterisk y. So this is an anonymous function. You can see the function keyword, but it has no name. So you can see that it is assigned to a variable, which makes it an expression. Another way is through arrow function. You can declare a function using the arrow function. So let's go look at an example of an arrow function. So when you want to use an arrow function, it's a simpler way of declaring a function. So you see it. So you don't need the function keyword, just pass in your parameter this way, and then put this arrow. This is exactly the exact thing that makes it an arrow function, and then what you want to return. So your parameters, and then what you expect to be returned, and then assign it to a variable. So you can see that this is simpler and even a shorter means of writing function, unlike the other three examples we have worked with. Then another one is using function constructor. You can make a function using the function constructor, and this is an example of how it looks like. So you can give it a name, and call a new keyword for the constructor. Then inside it can have x as a parameter, then y also as a parameter, and then return x asterisk y. So you can see this right here, that the way this one is done is different from all the other examples that we've had earlier. So this is a function constructor, and what makes it a construction is the presence of this new keyword that you can see here. And you can see that our function is different from the small letter f. So this one is using a capital letter F. And also through object method, you can have a function. And there's an example. So let's say we have a variable name object, and inside it, so we can put a function x, y, and make it to return x asterisk y. So now you see what we have here, that through an object, you can also have a function. So these are different ways through which you can have functions declaration. Nothing is returning here because we are actually not interested in returning anything. We are only interested in seeing different ways through which functions can be constructed in JavaScript.